Hi everyone, this is Alex Gosse. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm the owner of Magically Resin and I'm working in collaboration with Craft Resin to bring you ideas for how to use your craft resin and to give you tips and tricks for how to get the best out of your product. Today I will be making this jewel tray and I'm just so ecstatic with how this turned out. The inlay is beautiful and I only used five or six different materials to make this happen, and I'm really enjoying sticking with just using very few materials to make really great projects. You start with great resin, you start with a good mold, and you add a little bit of alcohol ink, maybe some glitter, and possibly one of my inlays, and you can produce gold. I'm starting off by mixing in mica powder to my already prepared craft resin. We have a bunch of tutorials on craft resin that explain how to prepare your craft resin and go into really in-depth information to make sure that your craft resin is prepared perfectly before you add anything to it. So I'm mixing in my mica powder, and it is really important when you're adding in dry mica powder to make sure that you really mix it in well. So that's why you see me doing all of this mixing. The resin was already ready, but that mica powder needed a good mix. And I'm using a cup that I use all the time to pour with. So it had other colors in it, but that's fine because it was cured mica. So this is just interference mica with clear craft resin, and then I'm squirting in some alcohol ink, some white alcohol ink, and I'm adding some silicone oil, and I've already got some clear resin in the mold, and I let that sit for just a little while so that it would thicken up. And then what I'm looking for is an effect that looks like clouds. I want it to be really light and flowing before I add in the inlay. So this is a marble technique that we have a bunch of videos of how to do it, and I like to make clouds with this. And you'll see here in a minute exactly how beautifully that works as the white moves into where the clear is that's in the mold. And this is because I gave that clear in the mold a good opportunity to set up so that when I put the white in, it wouldn't mix too much because I really didn't want it to. I also wanted some of the white to fall right down into the bottom to be sitting in the gem spaces because this mold has such a gorgeous design that I wanted to take advantage of that and really get different colors down into the little gem inlets. And the interference that I added will add a blue halo effect to the cloudy effect. You can only see it really here in the corner because of the way the light is shining. Light shining directly on interference, it basically is invisible. But when you turn it over and when you see either at the beginning or the end of the video, you can really see the blue halo effect, which is amazing. So you can see here how the white dispersed into the clear in a very cloud, soft type of way. And you've also can see the cells. That happened because of the silicone oil that I mixed in. I've given this a fair bit of time to set up, probably 45 minutes. And now I'm going back in and I'm adding a glitter alcohol ink that I make myself that adds sparkle. And I didn't want this to disperse things too much, and I also didn't want it to make the white run into the clear. So I wanted to make sure that they had a good amount of time to set up, which is really a huge advantage of using craft resin. It has a long working time, which gives you so much opportunity to do things like bending resin, adding in effects to resin, creating a bloom effect in resin. So I really find craft resin to be far superior in this respect and in so many others because I love the amount of control that I have, and some might say I'm a control freak. And that would probably be true. So because of the amount of time that this has had to set up, I feel really good now about being able to blow this out. You can see how thick it is and how close I am with the heat gun. Because it's had a good amount of time to set up, I'm not super concerned about it mixing too much. So this is the perfect time to get some really pretty tendrils of white moving into the clear and it feeling really soft like clouds and very light. And I just love this effect. This piece actually would have been completely gorgeous if I had stopped without adding anything else. If I had just let it sit right where it was right now, it turned out amazing, but I could have stopped right here. So I think this is a really good example of how few materials you can use to make something really spectacular. So at this point, this has probably had about an hour to cure, and I feel really good about putting in the pre-cut inlay. It is exactly the right amount of rigidity to push it into something like this, but be able to get the bubbles to come out of the bottom and not have it just fly around. So I put a lot of thought into how I create these inlays, and I sell them in my Etsy shop, and I put a lot of thought into 7 years of knowledge of resin in how to create the most perfect dichroic inlays, and I'm still practicing, but this was a really fun practice attempt in this one, and I love the way it turned out. So I pushed this inlay really far down. You can see the silicone, like the I don't know, it looks like a honeycomb, I guess. You can see where I really pushed the inlay down and moved the resin out of the way because I wanted you to be able to see the inlay and for it to be prominent. But I also, this is why I waited, because I didn't want the white to take over the clear. And I feel like this just turned out amazing. So I have enough knowledge that, you know, I can kind of guess, oh, this is how I think something will work. And then I make these tutorials to pass it on to you when something actually really works well. And the timing on this and having waited for the length of time that I did made a huge difference in how well this worked once I put the inlay in. So it's really important when you put in any inlay like this to lay it down with just one side being pushed in, and then you lay it down slowly and work the bubbles out from going from one side to the other to make sure that you don't get any bubbles trapped in it. And then once you're sure that you have no bubbles trapped in it, which you can see that there aren't any, it may be more difficult for y'all to see here, but I could see while I was doing it, and you would be able to see while you're crafting with it. Then once all of the edges are what I call sealed, now I'm just pushing down the inlay to get it to go more towards the front of the mold. I'm not trying to get bubbles out or do anything like that. I just want the inlay to be more visible. And I want a little bit more of the resin to come to the back so that I can cover the entire inlay on the back. It turned out that at the end, I really thought that it would be better to have a solid black on the back, so I poured an additional layer that I forgot to record that really made a difference in all of the colors popping the way that they did. So the white is beautiful, and then there were lots of places that were still would have been transparent, and that would have been pretty, but I really thought it needed a black background, and I also needed to pour more resin because wasn't enough resin to make a product that I felt like was a very secure tray. You can see here what a difference adding the black background, that final pour, did. It really brought out the dichroic colors. And it's funny, these dichroic inlays also do change colors when they're inside of resin. So it is a fantastic experiment. I'm having so much fun playing with them. And I'm so thrilled with how this turned out. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with us today. And give us a like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. And please leave a comment if there's something that you might like to see us do in the future.